Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here again. I'm Sherry Broder, and I'm honored today to be interviewing Tony Oposa, who is from the Philippines. Tony was born in Batayan Island and Cebu, and he is a person who really thinks outside the box. I like to think of him as our ultimate warrior for the environment. He's here in Honolulu as the Dan and Maggie Inouye Chair in Democratic Ideals. He practices in the global arena, international environmental law, and his purpose is to make us all think outside the box like he does and to move forward in the situation that we now find ourselves of climate crisis. So welcome today, Tony. I'm so glad to have you here. I was thinking perhaps we could start with your background, if you don't mind. I know you want to just jump into the Paris, making half the people ride bikes or buses instead of driving their cars. But I thought maybe we should talk first about your Oposa case in the Philippines and how you came about establishing the principle of intergenerational equity as law in the Philippines.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to Jay and to Carol for this opportunity, and to Sherry, and those of you who do not know it yet, may we congratulate in public Sherry for receiving on April 17, I believe, she will receive the American Bar Association Lifetime Achievement Award, which is not only an honor for her, but an honor for Hawaii. And for people who know her. Well, yes, many years ago, 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago, I noticed that there were only 800,000 hectares left of the Philippines virgin forest. And we were cutting them down at the rate of 120,000 hectares per year. And logging was only being done in the virgin forest. And the government had granted logging concessions to an area covering 4 million hectares. So if you do the numbers, there are 800,000 hectares left. Government granted 4 million hectares. So what we're doing, we will wipe out all the forests in less than 7 years, cutting them down at the rate of 120,000 hectares per year. So I said, I was a very, very young lawyer, and I said, if I called for a press conference, nobody would listen to me. But how can I tell the story? It's all about telling a story to make people listen. So the only avenue by which I could tell the story is in the court of law. So I initiated that case saying that it was the plaintiffs, the petitioners, were the children who stand to suffer the irreversible damage and irreparable injury. Because my son, my eldest son, who happens to be here now, was 3 years old. In less than 7 years, there would be nothing left for him. So they stand to suffer the irreparable injury. So I filed the case in their name, on their own behalf, and on behalf of generations yet unborn.
So were you able to have other people act as plaintiffs as well as your children? But wait, before you say anything, if you're going to talk about my award, I have to talk about your award. And I just want to say that in 2009, Tony was awarded the Ramon Magsaysay Award, which some people say is like the Nobel Prize of Asia, and he was awarded that for his transformational leadership. So now as he talks about this case, and when we're going to hear too about some future mischief he's got in mind, you'll understand why he was recognized as a transformational leader. Okay, so did you have other people in the case?
Yes, I asked my relatives, children, my friends' children, to join, and they said, "Oh, why will we do that? We sue government." I said, "Yeah, I mean, we're not suing government. We're just telling the story." But of course, the suit was to cancel all the logging concessions. It was nothing less than ridiculous to cancel all the logging concessions in the country on the ground that it was nothing. There's nothing going to be left. Of course, what made it radical or revolutionary was, one, it was named for behalf of children and on future generations, which if you were a lawyer, you would say that's a totally ridiculous idea. Number two is that the relief that was demanded to stop all logging is, all is way out there. It's just out there, not even in the moon. It's way past the moon. So, of course, it was dismissed by the lower court. In less than a year, it was dismissed without a hearing even.
So did you go up on appeal?
I went up on appeal to the Supreme Court, and fortunately, it landed on the lap of a person under the Supreme Court understood what it was all about. And it landed on the lap of a person who was himself a person that was very close to nature, and gave standing to the children, acting on their own behalf and on behalf of generations yet unborn. I didn't even bother to read the case. When I received that, I said, oh my God, it's a technical. I mean, for me, it made such common sense.
Yes.
So I just left it. I never even bothered to read it until this was before the web. But I was receiving letters that people around the world were excited about it. That I said, oh, then it was only after about 3 months that I bothered to read the decision. But people thought it revolutionary, but at the same time, common sense is revolutionary. If common sense is revolutionary, I don't know what is.
Well, can you tell us, what did the court say? I mean, why is this such an exciting decision? And what was the result after the decision?
Oh yeah, first the court said that yes, they have the right to initiate the legal action because they stand to suffer. Both my argument, in other words, and in effect, that they have the right an instinct of self-preservation and self-perpetuation exists even before the inception of humankind. It does not even have to be written in the Constitution, because in the words of the Supreme Court, it is now written in the Constitution because of the fear of the framers, quote and unquote, that unless it is written in the Constitution itself, the day would not be too far when all else would be lost, not only for this generation, but for succeeding generations, generations which stand to inherit nothing but the parched earth incapable of sustaining life. That was 1993, one generation ago. Was it true then? No, don't look at it then. Look at California now.
Yes, how about California? There's
look at California now. Carol and I were just talking about it.
Yes.
And
well, did they stop the logging in the Philippines?
Yes, the beauty of that was that I was after the 800,000 hectares of the remaining virgin forest, and the defendant, who was the secretary of the Department of Environment, the main defendant, used the case as a leverage to call all the logging concessionaires and said, hey, I'm being sued. Look at this. Now, I'm going to cancel all your logging concessions in the remaining virgin forest of 800,000 hectares, and you can move to the secondary forest, but you have to take care of the secondary forest. And it has since become part of the protected areas, of the national park protected areas. And there was also a law, 1992, while the case was pending, that was passed, that it was made the initial component of the protected areas. So what I sought to achieve in a wild legal action was achieved by administrative action, because
but after the decision of the Philippine Supreme Court?
No, this was even before.
Even before?
Even before.
So just filing the case and pursuing it resulted in action?
Resulted in action. And that is, that I have learned since that what does a legal action do? I call it the STAR principle. First, it tells a story. It tells a story of what the case is. We lawyers call it the theory, but it's really just a story. Number two, it puts the issue on the table of discussion. Meaning, why are you giving 4 million hectares when there are only 800,000 hectares? And number three, it sparks action. Somehow or other, it will spark action. And number four, sooner or later, win or lose, and one way or another, there will be a resolution. Because that court is meant, I may lose, it may be kicked out of court, but there will be a resolution. And this 22 years hence, in 2012, the President of the Philippines canceled all logging concessions in the country.
Well,
So-
that's a phenomenal success.
No,
And
it's
wonderful.
patience. It's more patience. And then,
Okay, well, you want to tell us about your fishing case too?
yeah, the Manila
Yeah.
Bay, the Manila
Yeah.
Bay case. Well, those of you listening who are Filipinos, you must take pride in the fact that studies have been shown that the Philippines is the center of marine biodiversity on Earth. Out of the 500 some corals in the world, Philippines has 488 species. We are even richer, square meter wise, than the entire Great Barrier Reef and the Caribbean Sea put together. But yet, what have we Filipinos done? We have blasted it out, we have turned it into its toilet bowl, we have cyanided, we've overfished everything. So in 1999, I wanted to tell another story because I found out that the Manila Bay, which is the apex of the richest marine biodiversity on Earth, and these are, by the way, these are not Filipinos bragging about it. They are foreigners who came to study us and said we are the, he calls it the center of marine biodiversity on Earth, Kent Carpenter. And the apex of that is Manila Bay. Now, what have we done with Manila Bay? We've turned it into a toilet bowl. All the sewage is dumped into Manila Bay. All the garbage is dumped into Manila Bay. So here I was a fairly young lawyer. I had my, very few people had heard, in the Philippines, had heard about my case. It was only being started to be taught. Nobody heard about it until about 5 years later, by the way, that case. It was well known all over the world, but very few people in the Philippines knew about it. So it went to another phase to tell a story that, look, we are the richest marine waters on Earth. The mirror image of that biological diversity, of that biological wealth, is the Philippines. But yet, what are we doing? We've turned it into a toilet bowl. All the sewage is dumped there. So I filed a case against the Philippines from the trial court.
You didn't use children this time
No,
for the
not. I used the residents of Manila Bay, including the oysters and the mussels and the fish that were being. It was just for fun. They never questioned it because they knew that I was going to probably win again. So they just accepted it.
Well, they didn't want to discriminate against the mussels.
Yeah. Anyway, so from the trial court all the way, and then they said. I sued about 11 government agencies because I found in 1977 law which said that where a body of water is polluted, it is the duty of the government agencies concerned, quote and unquote, to clean it up. So I said, oh, the Department of Public Works is responsible, is concerned, the Department of Education and Department of Health and, so many other Department of Environment, Metro Manila, etc., about 11 government agencies. So we tried the case in the trial court, and one snippet anecdote was that during the trial, I had so many opposing counsels, and the opposing counsel would say, Attorney Oposa, how did you know about this case? I mean, how did you know about this law? We never heard about this law. And I said, there are only two people who know about that law. Remember, this was 1999, and the law was 1977. I said, there are only two people who know about that law. One was me, because I'm the only one interested in it, and two is Marcos, because he was the one who passed that presidential decree in 1977. Now that Marcos is dead, I'm the only one who knows about that law.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and I'm sure that you'll all be eager to come back after the break to hear more from our fabulous warrior for the environment who's dedicated to greening of the judicial system.
Hi, my name is Seymour Kazimirski. I have a show called Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. Our show is about opening minds and facilitating conversations. To tell you the truth, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. I have no idea who our guests are going to be, but I guarantee you we're going to have lots and lots of fun. Aloha from Seymour's World.
Inspired by an ancient culture, classical Chinese dance, Vigorous physicality. Timeless stories. 5,000 years of Chinese music and dance. Shen Yun presents authentic Chinese culture. Coming to Blaisdell Concert Hall, May 8th and 9th. Tickets at shenyun.com or call 808-792-3919.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevlin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, everyone. We're back here at ThinkTech Hawaii, interviewing Tony Oposa, who is at the University of Hawaii Law School for the semester. He's the Dan and Maggie Inouye Chair in Democratic Ideals, and I think that we're very fortunate to have Tony here with us, a true warrior for the environment. So Tony, before the break, we were talking about your case on Manila Bay. So we didn't quite make it to the end of the case yet. We know that you are the only one left standing who knows what the law was about, requiring the government to clean up Manila Bay, which was highly polluted. So what happened, Tony?
So during the trial, I said the only way, well, I used, because remember, I was not funded by anyone, so I had to make the trial as short as possible. So I used interrogatories, like depositions, but interrogatories. So I was able to shorten it. Filipino lawyers do not use that. And to make it even more real, I asked for an ocular inspection to be held in the Manila Bay. I was able to borrow a boat. I borrowed a boat, and I brought the judge there and the entire court in that boat, and I made them
Was
smell.
it glass bottom?
No, it was not the glass bottom. I invented the glass bottom boat much later, but I showed them how much it stank.
Oh.
And so the case ran from the trial court to the Court of Appeals and then all the way to the Supreme Court. After 10 years, I win. And
What does that mean, you won?
they were ordered, I asked, the relief that I sought was that the government be required to prepare an action plan, complete with tasks, complete with timetable, and by whom. What needs to be done, who must do it, and when must it be done. And, a small item for whatever budget that's needed. So this was 2008, December.
2008?
2008.
I see. So how is Manila Bay today?
Surprisingly,
What?
believe it or not, there's more fish now.
Is there?
And the people...
I believe it.
Yeah, I am the most skeptical person about my work. But one day I gave a talk, and some people went up to me afterwards. He says, Antonio Oposa, thank you. I said, why? He says, we are the dragon boat racers. And we were the ones who were really suffering. They were the canoeists. And they says, we were really suffering, but now, believe it or not, it is much cleaner. Yeah. It's still not swimmable.
Yes.
It's not like your Waikiki or your Alamoana, but it's getting there. Maybe it's going to take another 50 to 100 years. But then anything that is worth doing cannot be done in one lifetime.
Well, the last time I was in Manila, I especially noticed the air quality, which I thought was pretty dismal. So, Tony, what are you going to do about that?
Oh, I'm doing something about it already. I have a question. I always ask the question. First, what are roads for? Are roads meant to move vehicles, or are roads meant to move people? If you answer the question in the latter, then things are simple. Why are we filling it up with motor vehicles? And the air quality in Metro Manila is so bad. So, again, it's time to tell a story. Only 1% of the 100 million people in Metro Manila, in the whole of the Philippines, only 1% own cars. I have the statistics. Government statistics, too. Yet, why are we filling it up with cars and motor vehicles. Only 2% own motor vehicles. That includes motor vehicles, public transportation. But yet, if you see the roads, it's filled up with motor vehicles. People are not even given a proper sidewalk, not even a 1 meter sidewalk.
Well, I'm sure the government's going to be very glad when you arrive back in Manila. What are you going to do to make a change?
I already filed a case against the Philippine government, but this time I believe in the principle that there is no limit to what we can achieve when we do not care who gets the credit. So it was my former law student. I prepared the entire case. He filed the case against the Philippine government to divide all the roads by half. I mean, and again, it's a ridiculous demand. And lawyers will say, you know, he must be crazy. He will shut down your TV set. But divide all the roads by half. Half for motor vehicles and half for people. People to walk and people to bike. It says, why one half? It says, you should be happy that we're only asking for one half. We should be asking for 99% of the roads. So, but then this is not about a lawsuit. In fact, 2 days before we filed that case, I invited the cabinet secretaries for breakfast in a very nice place like your Pacific Club here, and told them that, you know, on Monday I'm going to sue all of you, and they were all very happy. And then, but I have been working with them. In fact, on April 19, next Sunday, 12th, is this coming Sunday? Next Sunday, EDSA, which is a historic road, EDSA and our group, I mean the group, I'm linking up with cyclists. I'm just giving the teeth. You know, people go biking, people go ride bikes. A lot of people go ride bikes just to show force, but they don't have the bite. Now, I'm just providing the bite. So we're going on a 50-kilometer ride all over. And then we also launched last February 15, we also launched what I call the 10 million movement, signature movement, where we will gather 10 million signatures of the Filipinos, children and adults alike, to demand, to support, or to petition our governments to do exactly that, divide all the roads by half. And we will submit. I've invited Sherry and Carol and Jay. You're most welcome to come. And next year, we will present all the signatures on April 22, Earth Day next year. We will present it on a big press conference, and hopefully we'll send you the feed and tell the government, we support those who will support, please sign on the dotted line. We will post your name on the Facebook. Those who will not support, we will get your pictures and we will post your name and your faces on Facebook as well, including the pictures of your children.
Well, when you go back to Manila this time, and on Sunday when you do your bike around Manila, are you going to claim half the road? Is that?
Well, supposedly, yes.
The road?
Yes.
So is the government prepared for that? Are they going to make sure that you're safe?
Yeah,
or,
I think so. We work with them now. I mean, they, to their credit, we have quite an enlightened citizenry. Not only enlightened citizenry, but an enlightened public officials. I mean, in fact, when I presented this to the cabinet secretary, I showed you the picture in my presentation. When I presented this to the cabinet secretary, they said, "Hey, let's do that on, let's do that in EDSA. EDSA is our H1.
I see.
Let's do that." I said, no, don't do it yet. Let's do it on small roads first, on Sundays.
Yes.
And
they said, no, we want to do EDSA.
Yeah, no.
Come on, Tony, let's get going.
So I'm also meeting with your mayor here and propose to him the idea, because I want to congratulate him for his effort on King Street and to tell him that, just go ahead.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. Do
people
more.
will eventually know that you're doing the right thing. I mean, you cannot go on with this kind of traffic. You're fortunate here that you have sidewalks. People can walk.
I see. But in Manila, you don't have sidewalks?
No, you have a sidewalk that's about 1 inch wide.
I see.
And that 1 inch is occupied by stores, by structures. And so people walk on the road, which is very dangerous.
Well, I've heard that the bike path on King Street is very popular. The city does get a lot of good feedback from the citizens for that. So, well, back to fish. Can we go back to the fish? Aren't you trying to do something about the way that they fish for fish in the Philippines, how they use dynamite and other explosives
Yeah.
to go after the fish?
Yeah, well, yes. In my place, which is in the central Philippines, dynamite fishing was very rampant. Illegal fishing was so rampant. And here I was roaming around the world, giving talks here and there. And I said, I haven't done anything. I mean, you know, I have one case, but that's all. But I haven't done anything. So I decided, I said, let's stay put, and then I'll run after these guys. So first I ran after the small fry, I mean, those who were blasting, doing the blasting. But then after that, I said, you know, we're catching the small fry. We're catching the users. So I went after the syndicates that were selling the blasting powder and the blasting caps and the detonating fuse. So that created quite an impact. It also got me assassination contracts.
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
my friend who I was with, my buddy was, we were both under threat, and they shot him inside his house. And they said they couldn't find me. I said, yeah, of course you can find me. Not even my wife can find me.
Yeah, well, I'm very sorry to hear that. That sounds terrible.
It gained an impact, and
yeah.
later on, you know, you just go on, and this is what I teach my students. Never think of the impossible. You just go on and on and on, and things will fall in place. Some people will be in the right place at the right time, and things will just fall in place. The pieces of the puzzle will just fall in place. The cabinet, the director of fisheries was a very, very conventional. And then all of a sudden in 2011, to the credit of the president, a very progressive, who was my good friend and who was here, he gave a lecture in my class I invited him last Wednesday. He was there, and all the ideas that I had been talking about, he just did it. And so, you know, you plant, I tell my students and young people that you throw a pebble in a pond, you will never know how far it goes beyond.
So what have you been doing with your students here? What activities have they decided to undertake?
Tomorrow we will be planting vegetables right here in the city, and hopefully they will get to meet they wrote a letter of commendation to the mayor.
I see.
Because we understand that the mayor has been getting flack for his initiative of King Street by spoiled car owners. I see King Street has 6 lanes.
Yes.
6 lanes all in one way. And all the mayor did was get 1 lane for bicycles. How bad can that be? And yet he was getting flack. And you know, Jesse was the one saying that he was getting flack. So my students wrote him a very nice letter saying, you know, congratulations.
Yes.
And I've taught my students that the problem of food is not making more money to buy food, it is planting food. And so in the courtyard of the law school, Carol, you will have to go there, because in the courtyard of the law school there are papayas and there are tomatoes growing now, and beans and sweet potato and taro. They probably regret that they invited me here, so I'm leaving the day after tomorrow.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now from ThinkTech Hawaii. We're honored today to have Antonio Oposa here with us, environmental lawyer par excellence.
You should come and visit Carol, because you will.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starling from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes, there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from ThinkTech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our
TV.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii. Today we are very honored to have Antonio Oposa with us. He's a very distinguished lawyer in the Philippines and has been working hard his entire life to make a difference, especially with regard to the environment. I want to move on, Tony, and ask you about some of your plans for the future. I know that you're very concerned about the climate these days, and you've changed the issue from climate change to climate crisis. And I think that your characterization of it as climate crisis is exactly right. And I'm very honored to be able to be working with you on this important issue. So tell everybody, what's your plan? How are we going to make a difference? How are we going to change the world and preserve it for future generations?
First, I do not work. I says, Sherry says I've been working hard. No, I never work. I just play. All of this is a play.
Yes.
All of this is a journey. And we're having fun while
Tony
we're doing
invited me to, I thought it was a workshop, but when I got there, he corrected me. He said, no, we're here for a play shop.
Yeah. We had a play shop with the top thinkers of the world in the North Shore a couple of weeks ago. Well, the idea was, and I was very happy that Sherry could join us. The idea was, first, quick background. We are stuck. We know that the climate is changing. And it is changing so fast and so and it is changing in a manner that we cannot understand. Changing faster even than the scientists are telling us. Now, what do? We're stuck with what I call what we call the paralysis analysis, the analysis paralysis. We talk about it. The problem is not global warming. It is global whining. People keep on whining about it. And so we're all stuck and say, what are we going to do? There's Paris coming up. I've been in those conventions. I represent Micronesia in the Montreal Protocol and sometimes in the UNFCCC. And when you listen to them, it's a case of too little, too late. And everybody is stuck in a single principle, in a single overriding principle, the principle of self-interest. How do we change the dimension of the debate? First, the general plan of, how does social change happen? Social change happens either top-down or bottom-up. Top-down is fast, but it does not last. Bottom-up lasts, but it is not fast. So the fastest social changes happen when the bottom meets the top. We call that the sandwich theory of social change.
Okay, I like that.
And
Tony.
then, so what are we going to do? The plan is to initiate a legal action in the International Court of Justice on the question, under international law, quote, under international law, what is the duty of states to protect humankind of the present and future generations from the climate crisis? Repeat. under international law, what is the duty of states, not governments. Governments come and go, but states as a legal entity, as a fiction of law, is that entity that is supposed to take care of all humankind, not just of their people. The duty of states to protect not just their people, but humankind in general, the present and future generations from the climate crisis. How do we get there? It will be via an advisory opinion, a request for an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice.
Well, I don't think that everybody understands how you go about getting an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice, which is located in The Hague, because only states can go to the International Court of Justice to sue each other. But for an advisory opinion, how do you get to go there?
The International Court of Justice is the only court that is allowed, or that is authorized to give advisory opinion, like a recommendation. How do you get there? You get a resolution from the United Nations General Assembly. In other words, you have to have 100 signatures of all states in the UN General Assembly endorsing that question to be submitted to the International Court of Justice. So the big deal, the big effort will be in the big game will be in the UN General Assembly. How do we convince? And we are hopeful that we can convince them, because this is not about the Philippines, not about the US. It is about your children. And what kind of world are we leaving behind for them? And it's a long process. It's going to be a long, but it's going to be a fun process. And when we were meeting and people were saying, they were all excited about getting to the International Court of Justice, I said, no, it's the journey that is all that makes it fun. When you get to your destination, that's the end of it. And how are we going to do it? What's the bottom? That's the top. What's the bottom? Before you can join, you must apply and you must commit to do certain changes in yourself. For example, turning off lights when they're not in use, unplugging your computers when they're fully charged, saving water, using a glass of water to brush one's teeth instead of letting the tap run. I mean, basic things that make a lot of difference. That qualifies a person to become a member of the movement. It's not an organization, by the way. It is a movement of not just of us, but it's a movement generally of children. Now, when children have been able to do that, when children speak, adults listen. When the children speak louder, the adults tremble. How are we going to do that? I have the directory of all the members of the diplomatic mission of the UN General Assembly. We will mobilize children using Facebook, using social media around the world to say, okay, once you have a member, you can write your UN ambassador to support this. Imagine what the UN ambassador would do if he gets 2,000 emails from his own grandchildren, some of whom are his own grandchildren. So this is global mobilization to kickstart, to spur the process of change. We are not going to pass another convention. No, it's about implementation.
So are you going to work with already existing organizations like Earth Justice, that organization, 360?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to work with them as individuals, though. I have something about organizations.
Okay.
Because organizations are good only if the leader is with you. Once the leader is gone, then you have to talk to them again. And, organizations have bigger egos than individuals. So as individuals, like when we had our meeting, people who belonged to big organizations, but they were all there. No one funded them, and the egos do not fall in credit grabbing or credit taking. We're all anonymous. It's a movement to move forward and make this probably a healthier place in the next 30 years. We're not going to be here 30 years from now, but our children will be here and our grandchildren will be here. So again, this is about the STAR principle, to tell a story, to put the issue on the table of discussion. There are still politicians in this country, and I dare them. I will dare them. Once this case goes into in the ICJ, I will send them a subpoena to debate with me in the International Court of Justice. There are still those who either deny purposely or intentionally that the climate crisis is happening. And this is not a climate change. The climate change happens morning and afternoon.
So
But-
is the Philippines in a particularly vulnerable location
Oh, yes.
with regard to the climate crisis?
Oh, my own home was just wiped out in
Yes.
2013, November 8th, 2013. And a month or so ago, Vanuatu was again wiped out. And as we speak, there was a typhoon in the Philippines. It just came from Micronesia. I just had lunch with the Consul General of Micronesia. I said, you used to manufacture typhoons and export it in Micronesia. Now you're also getting experience. But you
Yeah.
see, you put it, and then third is going to spark the action. And one way or another, there will be a resolution.
Well, who will be the leader of going to the UN General Assembly and talking to the different governments and convincing them that they should sign the petition to request an advisory opinion?
Well, first, we are just going to find a country or a group of countries who we found out from one of our companions that it is necessary for one country to sponsor an item in the agenda. And once that item is in the agenda, then no country can block it. It has to be deliberated. So we're looking for that country now. When I go back, I will try to convince the Philippines. I also talked to Micronesia. And as far as the real work of trying to convince them, I'm going there. I hung out in New York for a month and
Yes.
hold parties, hold lunches to meet with the ambassadors
Yes.
and make them understand that this is not about us.
Well, of course, you're not the first one to be very concerned about climate crisis and go to the General Assembly for assistance. Didn't Palau make an attempt
Yes.
as well?
I know about them. In fact, that forum where I met John
Yes.
Van Dyke, your good husband, was precisely that. I was in the same forum with Palau. And then they ran off with the idea. But the trouble with the framing of Palau was that it was about responsibility of states to other countries.
Yes.
So it was looking backwards. And the implication was that this is going to be about liability. So it was shut down by the over-consuming countries.
Yes.
Because you're talking of liability. But in this case, we're reframing the whole dimension of the debate. It will be the duty of states, not to the Philippines, not the duty of America to the Philippines, or the obligation or responsibility of the over-emitting countries to the Philippines, to Vanuatu, or to whatever, but it is the duty of states as bonus pater familias, the good father of the family of the people, to
Yes.
protect humankind of the present and future generations from the climate crisis. Now we're looking forward, and we're looking at their children too, and not
Well,
just us.
Well, thank you very much, Tony, and I'm very honored to be included in the place shop of people who are going to try and bring this to fruition. It's been a great honor to have you here in Hawaii, and I'm so glad that you were able to agree to come today, because I've been so excited to meet you and to have a chance to talk to you and see your creativity and your warrior for the environment ethic. And I wanted so much to be able to share this with other people. So I want to also thank ThinkTech Hawaii, Jay Fidel and Carol Monlee for making sure that we were able to have the opportunity to publicize and spread Tony's word and ideas. Mahalo.